Russia nears 1 million war casualties in Ukraine, study found. Ukrainian soldiers fire a Howitzers towards Russian troops on the front line in Ukraine's Kharkiv region on Monday. CNN: Nearly 1 million Russian soldiers have been killed or injured in the country's full-scale invasion of Ukraine, according to the new study, a grisly measure of the human cost of Russian President Vladimir Putin's unprovoked three-year assault on his neighbor. Russia will likely hit the 1 million casualty mark this summer, said the study published Tuesday by the Center for Strategy and International Studies, called CSIS, a think tank in Washington, D.C. It said the stunning milestone was a sign of Putin's blatant disregard for his soldiers. Of the estimated 950,000 Russian casualties so far, as many as 250,000 are dead, according to the study. No Soviet or Russian war since World War II has even come close to Ukraine in terms of fatality rate, he said. Ukraine has sustained nearly 400,000 casualties, it added, with between 60,000 and 100,000 deaths. Although Kiev does not disclose its own combat losses in any detail, and Moscow is believed to drastically underestimate its own casualties. The CSIS figures are in line with the British and the United States intelligence assessment. In March, the British Defense Ministry estimated that Russia had sustained around 900,000 casualties since 2022. For months, it has judged that Russia is losing about 1,000 soldiers each day, whether killed or wounded. Based on that trend, Russia would be expected to surpass the 1 million threshold in the coming weeks. The rebutting claims for some Western lawmakers that Russia holds all the cards in the war in Ukraine. The CSIS study used Russian casualty figures as well as estimates of its heavy equipment losses and sluggish territorial gains as it evidence that Moscow's military has performed relatively poorly on the battlefield and failed to achieve its main war goals. A Ukrainian soldier set up his weapon in Kharkiv region in May, after Ukraine repelled Russia's initial Flickrig assault in 2022. The war has since become attritional, while Kiev dug in with trenches and mines. Moscow funnels more and more troops into what have become known as meat grinders assault, throwing soldiers into campaigns for only marginal territorial gains, the study said. In the northeast Kharkiv region, Russian forces have advanced an average of only 50 meters per day, according to the study. That is slower than the British and French advance in the Battle of the Somme in the trench warfare of World War One. The slow rate of advance has meant Russia has seized only 1% of Ukrainian territory since January 2024, which the authors called the fertile amount. Russia now occupies around 20% of Ukraine's territory, including the Crimean Peninsula that Moscow annexed in 2014. But Russia's dwindling territorial gains have not led to the change in strategy to sustain Russia's staggering rate of casualties. The Kremlin has enlisted convicts from its prisons and welcomed more than 10,000 troops from its ally North Korea, but it has left the children of Moscow and St. Petersburg elite largely untouched. Russian conscripts lined up at the recruitment headquarters in the Leningrad region in April. Pedestrians walk past a billboard advertising contract army service in St. Petersburg in January. Instead, Moscow has recruited in the far north and far east of the country, where men have been lured by pay packages that are life-changing among poorer communities in those regions. Putin likely considers these types of soldiers more expendable and less likely to undermine his domestic support base, the study noted. Whereas Ukraine, a democracy with a population less than a quarter the size of Russia, has faced some pushback in its attempt to mobilize more troops. Russia, where criticism of the war has been outlawed, has faced no significant dissent, but with the war now well into its fourth year, the authors warned that the blood cost of each protracted campaign was the potential vulnerability for Putin. Although Russia has had the initiative in the conflict since early 2024, the authors said the attritional nature of the war has left few opportunities for decisive breakthroughs. Instead, Russia's main hope to win is for the United States to cut off aid to Ukraine, as President Donald Trump briefly did earlier this year and walk away from the conflict, as officials in his administration have threatened to do.